Shout out, folks. It's Bob the Old Rucker here. Redbeard and I and the rest of the Shout Out team pray you are having an amazing, incredible, and wonderful day. Quick question, remap check-in. Where are you in your reading, exercise, meditating, anonymous service work where you can, and praying? I heard a quote long ago that goes something like, "There's no such thing as a lazy person, just a person who has yet to be inspired." Remap helps me to maintain a reasonably healthy day, even when I don't feel very inspired. Today's show is just me, and occasionally I wonder why we keep doing this. Redbeard and I started this podcast a couple of years ago with the purpose of sharing inspiration and hope, especially to the hurting. But I'm not kidding you. Sometimes I just want to quit. I want to walk away. I want to go back to bed and put the pillow over my head and disappear. Then someone will say something like, I never thought the podcast would make it this far. There are so many podcasts. I mean, everybody has a podcast, but yours, it's different. I like it. I heard that this week. Wasn't sure where he was going with it when we started, but after a brief chat, I walked away feeling like if Redbeard and I can make a difference in just one person's life for just today, then it's worth it. And as our audience grows and continues to grow, I just want to tell you how much you truly bless us with your words of encouragement and honest feedback. Yeah, I need to be fair here. Some of that feedback stings, but this really is your show. We do this for folks that look for tools and tips in recovery, and we do this for you that want to share your story of challenges and successes so that others can know if you overcame one of the big three, the big H's, right? Hurt, habit, or hang up, that they can too. Please share your story with us at shoutoutfromthepit.com. We look forward to meeting you and sharing your inspiration and hope with the world. And thanks to you anonymous donors this week for hitting us up on the donate link at shoutoutfromthepit.com. We are truly humbled by your generosity. A buck here and a buck there, that helps with business cards, equipment upgrades, and technology. Platform fees, that kind of stuff. Friends, we all desire to get hope and inspiration to the hurting, and that's all we want to do here. Your donations help us do just that. So hit the donate link at shoutoutfromthepit.com and drop a buck for the cause. And if you know someone who could sponsor the show with business cards, or gifts for our guest, or even personally sponsoring, like particular upgrades, just let us know on the contact page at shoutoutfromthepit.com. None of your contributions go to the team. We're all volunteers. So thanks for helping us spread hope and inspiration. All right, before I launch into this week's episode, I got to give a spoiler alert for next week's show. Brother Dwight, the eldest member from the tribe, is sharing for the first time ever on Shout Out from the Pit his experience, strength, and hope. You don't want to miss this episode or any of our episodes, so be sure to sign up at shoutoutfromthepit.com where you'll get weekly episodes and Diane's missives full of awesome tools and encouragement. And join our growing Facebook page for daily words of hope and inspiration and daily insights from the Shout Out team. Episodes are also posted on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you listen to the show. Like, follow, join, and share the hope and inspiration with the masses. These weekly episodes are designed to edutain as you trudge the road to happy destiny. And as always, is for free and for fun. All right, here we go. We're calling this series Recovery 101. The first topic in this series is communication, with periodic 101 episodes running in the future as the Spirit leads us. Recovery is like exercise. We want to see results right away. We live in a I want it and I want it now culture. If we exercise too hard and fast, we injure ourselves. Hello, major setbacks. If we move too quickly and expect fast results in recovery, we tend to burn out, give up, and maybe even go backwards. not good. Recovery, like exercise, requires dedication, commitment, and mindfulness. These are all topics for the future. Communication is key in recovery and is a vast subject that covers lots of areas. And folks, I'm only going to hit a few in today's short show. Now, side note, do you know the number one reason for divorce? Pause. Marriage. Yeah, he's got jokes. Okay. Anyway, included in the big three reasons for divorce are infidelity, finances, and communication. Communication styles vary in all kinds of situations, like the military, your civilian employment, and life in general. And there are basic communication characteristics that are threaded all through your aspects of life, or our aspects of life. I don't know, whatever. All right, so take the military, or in that category, first responders like police, firefighters, medical personnel. All right, if they didn't have good communication, especially in emergency situations, missions go south in a heartbeat. So they use lingo like Roger, meaning I understand. Lima Charlie, meaning I hear you loud and clear. Over, meaning I'm done talking, it's your turn. And out, meaning this conversation is complete, move out. All right, so there's, just general employment, civilian employment, military, first, whatever. All right. Expectations are delivered. All right, I got to have another shot of this coffee here. Expectations are delivered from the top of the leadership tower all the way down to where the rubber meets the road. Mission or objective failure can come from lots of variables, but according to Ruckerpedia, yeah, I just made that up. One of the reasons is lack of simple repeating back to the boss what the expectations are. Now, nothing happens without communication. Nothing good comes from bad communication. In fact, whole books are written, seminars are conducted discussing the science of communication. I say just use common sense, but you and I both know what happens when we assume people understand simple communication skills. All right, so let's look at just the basics and a few subtopics within the overall topic of communication. In a typical conversation, there are two roles. There's the sender, that's the talker, and then the receiver, that's the listener, we hope. And those roles will be reversed in a typical conversation. Now, I learned something that just sounded so dumb that it stuck. CUCUMU. That's CUCUMU. And it means clear understanding, complete understanding, and mutual understanding. All right, let me break it down. The sender is the person initiating the conversation. The receiver is the person receiving the information. Pretty simple so far. The sender tells the receiver the expectation in clear language with no ambiguity, no vagueness, and no dancing around the subject. Take out the trash. That's pretty clear. The receiver responds, "You want me to take out the trash?" That's confirmation that the receiver understands the message, and now we have a complete understanding. Case closed. Not so fast. The receiver may understand what the message is, but may not agree, may not be able to complete the requirement, or there may be something else. Right now, we don't have a mutual understanding until the sender and the receiver overcome objectives, obstacles, hurdles, all that stuff. For instance, in this elementary example, I took out the trash last time. It's Johnny's turn. Simple example. You get the point. A dialogue ensues until the sender and receiver have a CUCUMU. Imagine CUCUMU as I go through some basic communication subtopics. Just to be clear, when I use the male pronoun, it applies across the board. Ladies, you're not getting off the hook. All right, here's the first subtopic. BLUF, bottom line up front. Save those moves for the dance floor. The sender should tell the receiver right up front the 5 W's. What, where, when, why, and who, and let's not forget how. Then get into the details. Getting lost in the weeds before simply stating what we want from the receiver is a Charlie Brown episode of wah, 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 wah. BLUF also means avoiding hinting at what we want. Yeah, I'd sure like a soda about now. That just screams a snarky response like, man, I hope a genie drops one off on you, pal. Just say, I'd like a soda. Hinting around what we want leaves so much room for disappointment and resentments. If you know, you know. Enough said. Body language is communication. Nothing screams louder than feeling dismissed when you're trying to have a dialogue with a receiver while he's checking his phone or computer. That is a mental slap waiting to happen. Suggestion when this happens: stop talking. No need to be snarky, though I'd love to just randomly say something like, I'll wait until you're ready to have an adult conversation. That's not going to help the situation, so just stop talking until you have the receiver's undivided attention. And yes, the receiver may say something like, hey, I'm able to multitask, man, so just, continue. Yeah, that's a big negative, ghostwriter. Be humble and let the receiver know that you're just not that skilled and you're willing to wait. Okay, commitment. Yes is yes and no is no. There is no try. There is only do or do not. All right, let me try that again. There is no try. There's only do or do not. All right, or something like that. Hey, keep your word today. Look, I'm a podcast host. Think I haven't dealt with lack of commitment, rejection, resentments, and expectations? People will let you down. Don't take it personally. Just move on. Like Dory, right? In Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. You'll eventually build a circle of folks you can depend on. And as others mature in their recovery, then they can move into the inner circle of trust with folks that when they say they're going to do something, without a shadow of a doubt that they're going to do it. We got to show the same kind of grace to folks that was shown to us. Rise above it. Don't forget where you came from. Learn to say what you mean and mean what you say. Senders and receivers would gain a great deal more respect if they put into action behind their words. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Enough said. Expressing a need. CUCUMU is really helpful in those uncomfortable situations like a spousal chat where one or the other isn't getting needs met, whatever they are. Needs must be expressed clearly where both understand completely and both arrive at a mutual and fair understanding. Spousal situations may be volatile, and I'm not a therapist, so if you need one, get one. Staying married is a lot cheaper than getting divorced. I speak from experience, and yeah, I'm preaching to the choir, but you get the point. If you don't feel your needs are being met in a friendship, a workplace, or wherever, step up and get a CUCUMU. Moving along. All right, pause. I've had directives given to me that set me off only to find out I only heard part of the directive or I didn't understand it at all. After years of recovery, I've developed an automatic pause button. Stephen Covey says between stimulus and response, man has the freedom to choose. Hold up for a second and ask the sender to repeat, or if you don't understand, ask for clarification. If you're torqued one way or the other, think before you respond. If you're an angry person anyway, get therapy. It's hard to have a conversation with someone that's an argument looking for a place to happen. Being reasonable is sometimes a learned characteristic. Ask me. I know. All right, close the loop. Let's say you get a text from a friend about attending an event. Don't just blow it off. Reply yes or no. And if you're asked for a commitment for anything, reply yes or no and just go from there. If you don't, have time to think about it at that moment, say that. I'll get back with you. Do the CUCUMU. And if it's a task of sorts where you said you were going to, pick up snacks for an event, text the sender and let them know you picked up the snacks. This may sound so menial, but if somebody's organizing an event and they got a lot of things going on, you don't want to be renting space in their head, especially if they're counting on you. And remember, there was a time when you weren't so reliable. Let them know mission complete. I say again, close the loop. All right, here's a good one. Ghosting. This is similar to closing the loop. The difference is that you suddenly disappear. Take, for example, communication between sponsors and sponsees or mentors and mentees. It's really not the sponsor's responsibility to check in with the sponsee. Sponsees, don't ghost a person who said they'd help you on your recovery journey. If you're part of a group of friends and you ghost them, of course they're going to check on you. Don't do this recovery thing alone. Isolation is an incredibly dangerous place to be. All right, enough said. Mirroring. Yeah, I kind of hit on this earlier. It's a CUCUMU thing. Simply repeat back to the sender in your own words what you think the sender is saying. Asking, requesting, demanding, begging, whatever. All right, here's a really dumb example. I'd like something to drink. Response. What would you like to drink? Or more challenging. It really bothers me when you say you're going to do something and you don't. Response. I suck. Kill me now. Yeah, that's what we're thinking, but that's more along the line of being a whiny victim. So just be honest. Yeah, I let you down by, fill in the blanks. Sure, this sounds simple, but we've all been in awkward chats. Mirroring lets the sender know you're listening and your response is honest. Defending. Excuses only satisfy those who make them. You're not hiding anything anymore. The truth hurts. Take your licks. You did the crime, do the time. We used to defend the stupid stuff we did with BS and more BS. And I'm not talking Bob and Shannon. Take the verbal hits and move on. Talk with your sponsor and trusted friends on this one. You are a winner today, and winners aren't perfect. Winners are overcomers. Enough said. All right, wait 24 hours, a little bit different than pause. What? I just mentioned defending. Totally natural. Relax and pause and listen. Really listen. Mirror back so you have a complete understanding. There may not even be a mutual understanding at this point. Why? Because you are allowed to think about your response or an agreement before you slip up and go with the first thing that comes to your mind. Then you'll have a deeper challenge and amends are in the future. So wait 24 hours and come back to the table. The mutual part of CUCUMU at this point is that you both agree to think about it and come back, no earlier than 24 hours. This gives you time to chill out, get the defense mechanism out of the way. And man, this will save you a whole lot of grief. Is this hard to do? Well, let me ask you this. What's the best way to get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. All right, moving along. Fear. Nothing like making a commitment because we're afraid of hurting someone's feelings, but we don't really plan to follow through. Get over it. My God, be honest. Breaking a commitment causes more harm in the long run. Enough said. Oh boy, this is a big one, guys. Ego check. All right, this one is for me, and thank you for allowing me to indulge. check that ego at the door, whether in your personal life or at the job. All right, so I remember having this amazing epiphany in the shower. That's, where they come. And I couldn't wait to have my team execute this incredible idea that was literally going to change the world. It was our typical Monday morning team huddle, and my staff sat with their snacks and coffee and their pens and paper like knights of the round table, ready to sponge up my spectacular wisdom. I bounced from one whiteboard to another, drawing circles and squares and lines and arrows. I probably went through a dozen markers, spewing what they had to have gathered was the best plan since the creation of the Garden of Eden. I sat in my chair, smoked from the enthusiastic presentation, and awaited a standing ovation. I had a thing that I would do with my team. It was called slapping the table. And that meant after we, finished the topic and got a CUCUMU, which I guarantee you at this point I hadn't gotten, after the topic was settled, got a CUCUMU, I would, slap the table. And that meant action, action, action. It's time to execute. And that's how I ended up, all my meetings, because if we had a CUCUMU, I knew we were good to go, right? So I at this point, I raised my hand in my usual manner, and I did that, that normal thing. 3, got my hand coming down to the table. 2, it's getting closer. I'm getting ready to slap it. And then this little voice. Wait, came a humble little voice from one of my teamies. Have you considered the second and third order effects? And then the details ensued. You probably already figured out where this was going. After the first teammate broke the ice and the others added their insight, and after they'd gone around the table, as was customary in these settings, it was clear my idea was going down in flames. Was I disappointed? Absolutely. Resentful? Okay, maybe a little. Why? This wasn't something I learned in leadership school. This was something I learned in recovery. Men and women who came before me taught me to check my ego at the door and learn to listen to the guy or gal that's trying to keep you from jaywalking in front of a bus. It reminds me of a cartoon where a salesman is rebuffed from a general about to take his swordsmen into battle against a larger army of swordsmen. The general simply says, "I don't have time for a stupid salesman." The salesman is selling a Gatling gun. My team, whether it was at the job like in this situation or in my personal life, is made up of people that in most cases are smarter than me and need to be comfortable enough to tell me I'm about to make a monumental mistake. If my ego outweighs my heart, I'm not any different than Daddy Warbucks in the play Annie when he says, "You don't have to be nice to anyone if you don't plan on coming back down again." What a lonely place to be. Build humble relationships with people, and especially if you're a boss. If your team can't feel free to express their thoughts, you ain't no boss at all. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, learning to be a boss, a decent one at least, it doesn't come overnight. It comes from years of stepping on landmines and learning from our mistakes. We need to strive to get to the point where our team not only feels they can be completely comfortable with us, they got to know we value them. And we do that by listening and not being a banana. If you know, you know. Learn to check that ego at the door. The world will be a better place for you and for everybody else. Hijacking a conversation is not communicating. In fact, it's disrespectful. Practice mindfulness, again, a future topic in this series, and be cognizant that it's supposed to be a conversation. And now that's another thing. If we're going to trauma dump on someone, we need to set the stage up front that we aren't looking for a conversation or feedback. We are venting, vomiting. That door swings both ways. If someone is trauma dumping on you, let them. If they honor you enough to vent with you, that says a lot about you. Kudos for being chosen for that difficult mission. Enough said. All right, limit your points. all right, and stay on track. Rolling smokes, Batman. Nothing like a sender smacking the receiver, like a waiter bringing 10 entrees and expecting the patron to keep up. Stop, drop, and roll. You're on fire. As was taught to me, write your points out in advance. Prioritize them. Set a limit so as not to lose a friend, a boss, a battle buddy, spouse, or whatever. Take it 1 point at a time. And if the alarm signals you're done, you're done. Set a date for the next meeting. Believe me, this technique will garner you mucho respect. Moving along. Consider the source is good and not so good. Contempt prior to investigation, a quote by Herbert Spencer on page 568 of the Big Book. I sort of mentioned this already, but I humbly suggest that we learn to listen to the whole story, as boring or mundane as it may be, before we make a decision. Some folks are still learning to communicate. Give them grace without without cutting them off. And let's not assume anything. Like the guy that's approaching a curve in the road. A car is coming his direction and the driver says, "Cow!" He's offended and he hollers back, "Pig!" And as he enters the curve, there's a cow blocking his lane. Along these lines, admit it, there's times when a particular sender just sets you off. So while they're talking, you're planning your trip to the coffee shop. That's not cool. Hang in there. I learned to listen to the message and not the messenger. And because of that perseverance, I've gained some good insights. It does not mean that me and that sender become BFFs. If the chemistry ain't there, it ain't there. Enough said. And a word about communication and social media. I'm sure you've heard this, and please, it doesn't hurt to hear it again. Watch yourself. When you say something on social media, it's probably there forever. And if you see something really stupid that strikes your emotions, pause before answering. This really happens a lot because of politics. Politics, as I mentioned in an earlier episode, ends friendships and splits families. Listen, I have never seen anyone recover from their labels and thank it to politics. It ain't worth it. If someone is driving you crazy because they have opposing views, pause before answering, and then come to your senses and don't write a word. Move on. Put the sender on snooze for 30 days or just block them. If you're on a group text with a bunch of people and somebody says something just absolutely stupid, bizarre, and totally way out there, let it go. Your reply will speak volumes of you, and so will your no reply. I caution you against being one of those persons that feels like you need to be self-righteous and do the right thing and say the right thing and yada, yada, yada. Poke me in the eye with a hot poker. Just let it go already. Along the lines of communication fights, better to say, "There he go," than "Here he lay." And if this is really like impossible for you, close your social media account. Get a therapist. Work your remap program. Enough said. And that leads me to a word about being an ultra-crepidarian. Someone who expresses opinions or gives advice on matters outside of their areas of expertise. How many times have we seen somebody that we think is probably pretty stupid, and then they open their mouth and remove all doubt? If we don't know what we're talking about, it's okay to just shut the heck up. You like that? That was nice, right? All right, don't be an ultra-crepidarian. It's insulting for us to act like we know everything to those people that do know everything. It's okay not to be a hijacker or the smartest guy in the room, even when we are. Show some humility and let someone else share in the conversation. Keep hijacking in mind. And another point on smart people. This is kind of off subject, but when I was hiring people, if they sounded smarter than me and they could prove it, I hired them. If being around dumb people makes us dumber, then being around smart people makes us smarter. If being around people that display wisdom and discernment teaches us to display wisdom and discernment, he who counsels with himself counsels with a fool. All right, let's wrap this up. Listen up, man. You're on a recovery journey now. We used to be unreliable, undependable, and frankly, liars. We don't have to call in sick anymore or hope someone will call in for us. People may still be getting used to the new us. Give them some grace. We weren't cured overnight and spent a lot of years breaking promises and hearts. It's not fair of us to expect people to start trusting us overnight. Time heals wounds. God heals scars. Patience is the word of the hungry man. Hang in there. Better days are coming, but you gotta start now. Action, action, action. You know, it's kind of like we've been living in a fog dominated by our hurts, habits, and hangups, the big 3 H's. Now that we're dropping those rocks and the character defects that accompany the triple H, it's like we're suddenly on a life raft, leaving a sinking ship and drifting through the fog. As the sunlight begins to melt away, the fog, and we start seeing the light, we begin to believe in ourselves, and eventually others will begin to believe in us as well. That's where the promises from pages 83 and 84 in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous comes into play. Ho! Hey, you don't have to be an alcoholic to read that book. You don't have to be an alcoholic for those promises to apply to you. In fact, my mom gave... I got to tell you, first thing is, why the heck did she give me her book? Anyway, in fact, my mom gave me her book, and she was never an alcoholic. She was a member of Overeaters Anonymous before they had their own tailored literature. By the way, the big book did wonders for Mom. She's in her 80s and she looks fabulous. Yeah, okay, I digress. No surprise there. Shout out, Mom. All right, that's enough out of me. I hope a few of these tips will improve your relationships and help you become a better you. And I'm always looking for tips to improve my own recovery journey, even if those tips sting a little bit. So what say you on today's topic? Leave your thoughts and comments on shoutoutfromthepit.com. Wait, there's more. Do you have recovery events happening in your area? Let us know. We're about getting the good word out and opportunities to have fun with cool people. Check these events out and share the flyers where I have them from the show notes. March 28th kicks off Arkansas Sober Fest Golf and runs through October. April 4th is the grand opening of Crystal Palace, a family-friendly, alcohol-free event center at 173 Highway 11 in Searcy, Arkansas. Please tell them you heard about it from the Old Rucker. More on this in a bit. April 16th through 19th is an Arkansas AA convention. This one is the 49th annual Springtime in the Ozarks in Eureka Springs. No flyer for that one, so just check out springtimeintheozarks.com. June 20th is the Arkansas Sober Fest picnic at the VFW in Cabot, Arkansas. And huge shout out to our newest supporter, TCC. That's Ty and Crystal Communications, for providing gifts for our guest. TCC does everything from estate sales, computer repairs and sales, laser engraving, and more. And as mentioned earlier, look for Crystal Palace Family Event Center opening April 4th in Searcy, Arkansas. Man, Ty and Crystal, you bless us. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And if you can support the podcast with gifts for our guest, please call us at 501-613 8915. Anonymous gifts are cool too, but you know we love to support those that support the show. Speaking of 501-613-8915, that's an unmonitored number where you can leave voice messages and text. The show's just about over, so call or text 501-613-8915 and leave us some inspirational and motivational messages. We'll give you a shout out if you just leave your first name and include your message on the podcast. That number again is 501-613-8915. Did I mention the number? 501-613-8915. Looking forward to getting pumped up with your inspirational shout out. And remember, if you want to feel good about yourself, go out and do something for someone else. And finally, as always, you're not alone. If no one's told you that they love you today, we love you. God bless you and have an outstanding American day. This is Bob the Old Rucker. Peace out. Wow, I'm smoked. Woo!